You're listening to the Send It Podcast with Andrew Rawls on World Talk Radio.
Roman 7 Judah Bravo, then ground, turn right on Bravo, runway 10 left, Bravo, and it'll merge with Alpha at Alpha 3.
Okay, so just a quick episode here. I see a lot of people that use these slider keepers. The slider keeper just goes right over the reserve flap and holds your slider there in place for you while you're under canopy. The idea is that it's not rumbling around and creates more aerodynamic, stabler canopy, that there's less drag with that slider being exposed to the wind like that. You also see a lot of canopy coaches out there, as well as they should, talk to students and jumpers about, upon deployment, collapsing the slider to really open up the canopy. And they also talk about opening the chest wrap and those kinds of things. Most people end up taking that slider once they collapse it, moving it down behind their head. And then they have this magnetic, or maybe it's a snap in place or bungee cord slider keeper that they snap that slider into so that it doesn't get in the way. Now, I know a lot of dealers out there sell these, and they probably have either manufacture themselves, they probably have a little company that does it for them, but I don't know exactly where they get them at. But just a heads up, I would never recommend purchasing or using these at all. I don't care if it's a bungee, if it's magnetic, if it's button, or if it's been made for a particular rig. I saw a video, then it was confirmed by a canopy coach, where somebody needed to cut away, and this individual had done all his controllability checks and made sure that the canopy was performing and ready to fly. He had already collapsed the slider and put it behind his head, then snapped it into the slider keeper, and then when he ended up cutting away, the keeper wouldn't release the slider and his main was stuck to him. So he ended up having a 2-out situation. From what I saw in the video, it was pretty messy. Of course, he did the heads up thing and he reached back there with the 2-out, and he was actually able to grab the keeper and release the slider. The main flew off, but yeah, there for a while it was just a really dicey situation he was in. So again, I'd never recommend anybody using one of these things. I've just again seen folks have issues where they have a malfunction, they need to cut away, reach for that cutaway handle, and the magnets are either stuck, they're too strong, or it's a button that won't release the slider and then your main's stuck too. I've actually tried talking to some people about this, and you tend to notice people have these things on their containers when you're going up to altitude. But yeah, there's a lot of folks out there who don't want to listen. And I know people that are on World Championship 4-way teams, they either put the slider behind their head or they put it in front of their head, and that's great, but they don't use a slider keeper either. And again, I would highly recommend not putting that thing on your container at all, for the reasons again that when you pin something like that back behind your head and it doesn't release after you've cut away, you've got a situation where even with a slight delay at all, you're going to have two canopies out, possibly entangled with each other. So I just wanted to throw this out there. Again, it's your call. I'm just giving you a piece of information that I've also gotten from 1 or 2 top canopy coaches, and I agree with them.
You've just listened to Send It, a skydiving podcast hosted by Andrew Rawls on World Talk Radio. Send It is the #1 skydiving podcast on the planet, bringing listeners up-to-date information on all things sky sports. Be sure to visit senditradio.com to join the conversation, access the show notes, and discover our amazing bonus content and articles. If you enjoyed this episode, we'd love for you to subscribe, rate, and give a review. Until next time, 3, 2, 1. See ya.